The classroom doors opened with a soft hum. Every head turned. A boy stood there, human, tall, thin, and quiet. His black hair was a little messy. His eyes, they didn't look around. They looked far, as if he was staring through the walls, as if he didn't belong here. His name was Cale. He stepped forward, silent. No backpack, no books, just a smooth black band around his wrist. He didn't try to smile. He didn't even try to fit in. And the room, filled with dozens of alien students from across the galaxy, went silent. For a moment, then the whispers started. Is that a human? I thought they were extinct. What is he doing here? One voice cut through the rest, sharp and proud. Well, look what crawled out of the dirt. It was Arala, a starborn noble. Her skin shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes were violet and cold. She always sat at the center of the class. She always had the last word. She leaned back in her seat, folding her arms. A human in our school, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. What is this? A museum exhibit? Some of the other students laughed. Cale didn't respond. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he walked slowly to the empty seat in the back. He sat down, still quiet, still watching. Out the window, the stars moved slowly in the black sky. The space station drifted in orbit above a dying blue world. The teacher entered, a tall, thin being with 4 glowing eyes. She paused when she saw Cale. Her smile froze for half a second. Then she spoke. Class, please welcome our new student, Cale, from Earth. Another round of whispers. Earth, that planet was destroyed. I heard they were savages. I heard they used to eat their own kind. Arala smirked. I heard they couldn't even use telepathy. Cale blinked, but didn't turn his head. The lesson began. Galactic history. The rise of the unified species. The fall of Earth. The class listened. Some took notes. Others whispered. Still, Cale sat motionless, his hands resting on the table, his eyes locked on the display. When the teacher turned to ask a question, she glanced at him. Her eyes widened. For just a second, the black band on Cale's wrist flickered. A soft glow, blue and golden, like fire under ice. The symbol that appeared was ancient, a circle within a star. Wings behind it. The teacher's breath caught. She almost dropped her tablet, but she recovered quickly and turned away. No one noticed, except Arala. She had been watching him, waiting for him to make a mistake. She saw the glow, and for the first time that day, she stopped smiling. It was small, faint, easy to miss, but it stirred something deep in her memory. Something from the hidden books her father told her never to open. She shook her head. It was probably just human. Tech, old and broken. She leaned over to the student next to her. Watch, he won't last a week. They never do. But as she looked back at Cale, her smirk faded, because Cale was staring out the window again, at the stars. His face was calm, but there was a shadow in his eyes. Not fear, not sadness. Something deeper, something dangerous. At lunch, Cale sat alone. Nobody joined him. Not that he asked. He touched the symbol on his wrist. The glow returned for a second, then vanished. He closed his eyes. Arella passed by his table. Her friends laughed as they mimicked his quiet stare. One of them threw a small food cube at his tray. It bounced. Cale didn't move. Come on, human, Arella said, loud enough for others to hear. Say something. Do humans even talk? Cale opened his eyes. He looked up at her, and he spoke. His voice was soft, calm, but there was steel in it. I talk. I just choose not to waste words. The group fell silent. Arala blinked, then scoffed. She tried to laugh again, but it didn't feel right. Cale looked at her for one more second, then turned his gaze back to the stars. The others left, but Arala stood there for a few more seconds, her expression unreadable. That night, while everyone slept, She couldn't. She kept seeing that symbol. The way Kale looked through her. Like he wasn't afraid. Like he had seen something far worse. Like he knew something she didn't. And that thought kept her awake long into the cold silence of space. The next day began like any other. Students poured into the classroom. Their voices filled the room with soft laughter, whispers, and gossip from last night. But one seat remained empty. Kale's Arala noticed it right away. Her violet eyes scanned the door. Part of her hoped he wouldn't return. Not because she hated him, not anymore, but because she couldn't explain why she kept thinking about him. Then the door slid open. Kale walked in. Same quiet steps, same silent face. No bag, no fear. Just him. He moved to his seat in the back without saying a word. No one spoke to him, but everyone watched, especially her. Today's lesson was about ancient wars. The teacher floated above the floor, her voice echoing across the room. Now, can anyone tell me the year the Earth colonies were defeated in the Titan conflict? Silence. Even the best students hesitated. The date was buried in old records. Nobody really cared about human wars. Then Arala smiled. This was her moment. She raised her hand. Let's ask the expert. Everyone turned. Arala stood and looked straight at Kale. Come on, human. Tell us the answer. Or do Earthlings only fight, not think? A few snickers rippled through the class. Kale didn't move. He didn't even blink. Then he stood. He walked slowly to the front of the class. Every step was quiet, controlled. He reached the board, touched the display, and brought up the battle. Titan conflict, year 2447. Earth colonies held for 6 weeks, against 4 fleets. Lost only when their satellites were hacked. Not in battle. He turned around, and we never surrendered. Silence. Absolute silence. Even the teacher looked, stunned. Kale walked back to his seat, calm like nothing happened. Arella's mouth was half open. She felt heat in her chest. Embarrassment. No. Something else. That wasn't just a memorized answer. He knew it, lived it, felt it. But how? That night, Arala couldn't sleep again, so she opened her tablet. She searched Earth history. Most files were blocked, redacted, locked by the council. But Arala was a noble. Her father had access, and she had learned how to slip through cracks. She found a file, an old one, Project Terra, status, terminated. She clicked. A hologram appeared, a baby, human, sleeping inside a cryo-chamber. Name, Kale Orion, born, Earth, Sector 3, stasis initiated. Year 2479, status, alive, purpose, memory, preservation. Arala stared. Her heart pounded. He wasn't born yesterday. He was over 200 years old. She scrolled further. Images filled the screen. Cities burning. Skies blackened. Earth torn apart. Words at the bottom made her breath catch. Earth did not fall. Earth was silenced. She shut the tablet. Her hands were shaking. Everything she had been taught was a lie. The humans weren't savages. They were survivors. One of them was sitting right behind her in class. The next morning, Kale came in again. This time, no one whispered. He sat in silence, calm. As always, Arala didn't speak either, but she kept glancing at him. She remembered the glow on his wrist. The symbol now, it all made sense. She had mocked him, laughed at him, but he was a living piece of history. A ghost of a world erased. After class, she followed him. Quietly, he walked to the edge of the observation deck. The stars stretched far and wide beyond the glass. He looked alone, but not lost. She stepped closer. Kale didn't turn. She hesitated. Then spoke. You knew all of it. The war, the history, because you were there, weren't you? Kale finally looked at her. No, he said softly, but my mother was, my father, my people. I carry what they left behind. Arala lowered her eyes. I was wrong about you. Kale nodded. I know. For a moment, they stood in silence. Just two people. A boy from a dead world. A girl from a cold one. Then Kale turned back to the stars. They erased my planet, but not my purpose. Arala said nothing, because for the first time in her life, she had no words. The night was quiet aboard the station. Stars hung like frozen sparks outside the dome windows. But Arala wasn't looking at the stars. She was staring at her tablet, still awake, still thinking of Kale. She remembered the way he looked when he said those words. I carry what they left behind. No anger, no pride, just truth. And that made it worse. Everything she thought she knew about humans was wrong. They weren't primitive. They weren't broken. They were buried. She needed to know more, not rumors, not what the council taught. She wanted the truth, even if it meant breaking the rules. Her hands moved quickly across the tablet. Her father's clearance code worked for most public records, but Kale's file was sealed. She paused, then typed in a different code. One only nobles were given in secret. It worked. A dark screen appeared. Accessing classified archive origin file. Project Terra pulse of cold light blinked across the screen. She leaned in. The first video was old, blurry, but real. A human woman stood inside a lab, holding a baby. Her eyes were tired, but kind. This is Kale, my son. If you find this, it means Earth is gone. Arala swallowed hard. The woman's voice cracked as she continued. We tried peace. We begged for unity. But they feared us. Said we were dangerous. Said we had no limits. She looked into the camera. We only wanted to grow, to explore, to love. Arala felt something sharp in her chest. The next screen showed a long list of files. One stood out. Project Purpose. Memory vessel. She tapped it. A hologram of the same baby appeared again, floating in a cryo-chamber. Frozen, sleeping, genetic record, enhanced human, neural imprint, contained, combat protocol, locked. Arala's eyes widened. Kale wasn't just a survivor, he was designed, he carried the memories, knowledge, and pain of an entire planet. She scrolled further. Her breath caught as she saw another note. Symbol, Earth, Vanguard. Crest. She froze. That was the glowing mark on Kale's wrist. She tapped it. A symbol appeared. A circle around a burning star, with wings behind it, strong, bold. A mark once feared by the galaxy. Only one group carried it. The Earth. Vanguards. Soldiers trained, not just to fight, but to protect Earth from extinction. Her heart pounded. She thought, Kale was just a boy. He was a message, a living memory, left behind to remind the galaxy of what they destroyed. Suddenly, the screen flashed red. Alert, unauthorized access. Location logged. She shut the tablet fast. Her hands trembled. She had just broken 5 security laws, but she didn't care. She had seen the truth, and the truth changed everything. The next day at school, Kale sat in his usual seat, still quiet, still watching, but Arala couldn't look at him the same way. Anymore. She didn't see a human boy. She saw the ghost of a world that once dreamed of peace, and was punished for it. During lunch, she walked up to him. Kale looked up. He didn't seem surprised. You saw it, he said quietly. She nodded. I had to know. He looked away. I didn't want anyone to find out yet. Arala sat down beside him. For the first time, she wasn't mocking him. She wasn't judging him. She was just there. Why didn't you say anything? She asked. Kale sighed. Because I'm not here to start another war. I'm here to remember who we were. Silence settled between them. Finally, Arala spoke. They were wrong about your people. Kale turned to her. Maybe. But fear makes people blind. She reached out slowly. Her hand hovered near his wrist. Can I see it again? Kale hesitated. Then, He touched the band. The symbol appeared. Glowing softly, Arala stared at it, not with fear, but with quiet respect. "They'll come for you," she whispered. "If they know what you are." Kale nodded. "I know." She looked into his eyes. "But you're not alone anymore." He looked at her. For a moment, something passed between them. A spark, small, but real. The past could not be undone, but maybe the future could be rewritten. Together. The station's artificial sun had barely risen when it started. Rumors spread like sparks in dry grass. "Kale's a soldier. He has secret powers. He's a weapon," whispers echoed in the halls. Eyes followed him wherever he walked. Kale stayed, quiet, calm, just like always. But inside, he knew, the truth was out, and fear was starting to grow. Even the teachers looked at him differently. They no longer asked him questions. They barely spoke to him. They were afraid of the boy from the lost planet. After the last class, Kale headed to the quiet hall near the old training wing. He liked the silence there. No noise, no judgment, just empty space and stars. He sat down near the wall, staring at the sky through a tall, narrow window. Then he heard footsteps, loud, heavy, not just one pair, 3, maybe 4. He didn't move. He already knew who it was. Gavrik, a tall, bulky alien, with thick arms and a temper even thicker. He was a lower noble, but acted like royalty. He hated being ignored, and he hated Kale. Gavrik stepped into the hallway, with 3 others behind him. Well. The ancient warrior sits alone," Gavrik said, his voice mocking. "Or maybe he's scared." Kale didn't look at him. Gavrik stepped closer. The others laughed. Arella had warned Kale this might happen. She begged him not to stay alone. But Kale believed something. The past didn't define the future. He was wrong. Gavrik reached down and grabbed the chain around Kale's neck. It looked simple. A tiny metal tag, dull and scratched. "Let's see what your precious humans wore in battle," Gavrik sneered. The moment his fingers touched the tag, Kale moved fast out in a single motion. He twisted Gavrik's arm, flipped him over his shoulder, and pinned him to the ground. The others blinked before they could react. Kale stepped sideways, swept one's legs out, and blocked another's punch with the back of his arm. No blood. No death, just perfect, focused defense. Seconds later, all 4 bullies lay groaning on the floor. Kale stood over them, breathing slow, calm. His eyes held no anger, only control. Students who had gathered nearby watched in shock. Some recorded everything, on their tablets. Nobody said a word. Arala came, running around the corner. She froze when she saw the scene. Her eyes found Kale. He wasn't proud. He wasn't even shaken. He looked tired, as if this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. A teacher arrived seconds later. She gasped at the sight, then looked at Kale. "Headmaster." Now, Kale didn't argue. He walked toward the office without a word. The next hour was tense. Arala waited outside the headmaster's door. She sat on the bench, heart racing. Finally, the door opened. Kale stepped out. His face was unreadable. Arala stood. "What happened?" "They're reviewing the footage," Kale said. "I told them I acted in self-defense, and they said they'll decide by tomorrow." Arala frowned. "That's not fair." Kale shrugged. "Life rarely is." He turned to leave, but she stepped in front of him. "I saw what you did. You didn't hurt them. You stopped them." Kale looked at her. "I've had a long time to learn how to fight." Arala lowered her voice. "Where did you learn that?" Kale hesitated. "My mother. Before she put me in stasis, she taught me what I'd need. Earth's old code. Defense only. Never strike first." Arala's eyes softened. "You still wear her tag, don't you?" Kale nodded. "She died the day Earth fell. This is all I have left of her." Arala touched his arm gently. "I'm sorry, Kale." looked down at her hand. He didn't move it away this time. That night, the footage spread through the school network. Thousands watched Kale move like water. .com, unshaken. Some feared him more, but others began to see him differently, not as a weapon, but as a protector. And in a quiet room, far above the classrooms and dorms, a group of council agents played the video over and over. One of them whispered, "He's active." Another nodded, "Prepare a report. The human vessel has awakened." The next day, the halls were quiet again. No more laughter, no more whispers. Kale walked alone, but this time, people stepped aside when he passed, not out of hate, but respect and fear. Arala watched from a distance. She had never seen anyone move like he did, so calm, so exact. He never lost control, even when pushed, even when hurt. But she also saw something else, sadness, heavy, quiet sadness. It was always in his eyes. That night, she found him again, sitting where he always sat, at the edge of the observation deck, watching the stars. She walked slowly, her boots silent on the metal floor. "Do you come here every night?" she asked. Kale didn't turn. "Yes." "Why?" He took a long breath. "Because the stars never change. No matter what we lose, they stay." Arala sat beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then she asked the question that had been burning inside her for days. What really happened to Earth? Kale closed his eyes. He didn't answer at first, but then, in a low voice, he began to speak. Earth wasn't destroyed in battle, not like the history books say. He paused. They feared us, the Council, the other species. Not because we attacked, but because we grew too fast. Arala listened closely. We cured diseases in decades, reached deep space in less than a century. And we did it without the help of the galaxy. Kale's voice cracked slightly. They said we had no limits, that humans would one day conquer the stars. Arala frowned. So they wiped you out. Kale nodded. They sent fleets, bombed cities, blocked the sun over half the planet. Then they erased the records. Said we destroyed ourselves. Arala's heart tightened. She had seen the files, but hearing it in his voice made it real. Kale reached into his pocket and pulled out a small cube. He held it in his hand for a moment, then tapped the top. A soft blue light glowed. A hologram appeared. Above his palm, it showed a woman's face, kind, strong, her dark hair tied back, her voice calm. Kale, if you're hearing this, then Earth is gone. Arala's breath caught. It was his mother, the woman continued. We tried everything, baby. We begged them, we showed them peace, but they still came. Her voice broke slightly. So we built this for you. This memory capsule. You're not a weapon, you're a witness. You carry the truth. The image flickered, then faded. Kale closed his hand slowly. Arala had tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Kale. He looked at her. I've carried this for years, alone. No one to talk to. No one who believed. Arala reached over and gently touched his shoulder. You're not alone now. Kale blinked. That simple sentence meant more than she could ever know. For a long time, they just sat there, watching the stars, letting the silence wrap around them. Finally, Arala spoke again. Do you miss it, Earth? Kale smiled softly. A rare, fragile smile. Every day. The smell of rain, music in the streets, people laughing, even the sky. He looked down. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Arala nodded. I'd like to see it, even just a piece of it. Kale looked at her. Maybe one day. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and for the first time since he woke from stasis, Kale didn't feel like a ghost. He felt human, alive, connected, and though Earth was gone, something new had just begun. The days passed slowly. Kale still came to class, still sat in the same seat, but something had changed. People didn't whisper anymore. They didn't laugh when he walked by. They watched him, some with curiosity, others with quiet respect. But only one person dared to come close. Era La. She hadn't spoken much since the night on the observation deck, but her thoughts had never been louder. She had mocked him, laughed at him, called him names, without knowing who he truly was. Now, every time she looked into his eyes, she saw the truth. Kale was more than human. He was hurting, and he was hiding it well. But not perfectly. That afternoon, she finally found him again, alone, in the back of the station's garden dome. Earth plants, carefully grown in controlled soil. It was the only place that smelled like home might have. Kale sat under a small earth tree, leaves rustling gently in the recycled air. She walked up slowly. Kale. He looked up. His eyes were tired, but not cold. "I wanted to talk," she said. He gave a small nod. She sat down beside him, her hands shaking slightly. "I never said it before. Not the way I should have." Kale waited. "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. "I judged you before I knew anything. I hurt you, and I'm sorry." Kale stared at the leaves above. "I've heard worse." "I know," she whispered, "but that doesn't make it right." Kale turned to look at her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver object. It was flat, square, and old. He handed it to her. She took it carefully. "What is it?" Kale answered softly. "A memory crystal. It holds images from Earth." She tapped the side gently. A projection floated above her hand. A field, green and wide, trees dancing in the wind, children laughing in the distance. Aralla's eyes widened. "It's beautiful." Kale nodded. "My parents took me there every spring. It was my favorite place." The image shifted. A woman appeared, holding Kale as a toddler. She was smiling, spinning him around. Then a man joined, tall, bearded, laughing. It was a real family, whole, happy then. The image faded. Aralla handed the crystal back, her hands trembling. "Kale." He looked down. "I wasn't just frozen to survive. I was chosen. My parents knew the world was ending. They picked me to carry the truth, but they also gave me this." He held the crystal close to his chest. "To remember. Love." Aralla's heart ached all the times she had mocked him. And he had stayed silent, not because he was weak, but because he was strong enough to carry pain without turning it into hate. She reached out and touched his hand. "I don't know what I can offer you, but I want to try, to understand you, to stand beside you." Kale looked at her. There was silence. Then, slowly, he turned his hand over and held hers. "I've been alone a long time," he said. "But with you, I feel a little less like a shadow." Tears welled in Aralla's eyes. "I'll never laugh at you again." Kale gave her a soft smile. "I know." They sat under the tree until the lights dimmed. No more apologies, just quiet understanding. Two souls from different worlds, slowly finding one heart. The stars outside the station looked peaceful, but something had shifted in the quiet. Kale could feel it. It began with the strange glances from teachers, the extra guards near the upper levels, the locked doors that were never locked before. Then came the silence on the network. His files were being erased. Someone was covering the truth again, and Kale knew exactly who it was. The council. They had found out. He was no longer just a student. He was a threat. The last human memory, still breathing, still dangerous. That night, Aralla burst into his room. Her eyes were wide, her hands shaking. "They're coming for you." Kale didn't ask how she knew. He trusted her now. "Security teams," she said. "Ships are already in orbit. They're calling it a relocation." He nodded. "They want to lock me away before the galaxy finds out what really happened to Earth." Arella grabbed his arm. "Then we don't let them." He looked at her, surprised. You'd run with me? She didn't hesitate. I mocked you, judged you, and you still saved me from my own blindness. I'm not leaving you behind. Cale gave a small, sad smile. Then he opened the panel in his wall. Behind it was something he had never shown anyone. A device. Old, dusty, but earth-made. He pressed his hand on the scanner. The wall shifted. A door slid open. Beyond it was a narrow tunnel, and at the end, a hangar, hidden deep under the station. Inside sat a sleek black ship, sharp, silent, ready. This was built for me, Cale said. My parents planned everything. In case I ever needed to run. Arella stared at the ship. It was beautiful. Nothing like the Council's cold machines. This one felt alive. They ran down the corridor, lights flashing red above them. The sound of boots echoed in the distance. Cale, Orion, a voice called through the station speakers. You are ordered to surrender. Cale didn't stop. He and Arella entered the ship. The cockpit lit up at his touch. Systems came alive. The engines hummed with deep power. As the ship lifted off, security forces poured into the hangar, sealed the bay, disabled the thrusters. But it was too late. With a deep roar, the Earthship broke free. It shot into space, leaving fire and silence behind. Outside, the Council ships moved to intercept. Cale didn't fire. Instead, he activated the ship's main signal. A blue light pulsed across the void, and a message began to play across every open channel. The whole galaxy heard his voice. This is Cale, Orion, human, born of Earth. I am not your enemy. I am your memory. My planet was destroyed, not because we attacked, but because we dreamed. The signal spread through colonies, trade ships, civilian networks everywhere. I am the last voice of a silenced world, and I remember, in a distant system, a group of elders listened in silence. In a mining colony, a worker dropped his tools and stared at the screen. In a school on a far-off moon, a child asked, "What is Earth?" The galaxy paused and Cale's ship disappeared into the stars. Beside him, Arella watched the stars stretch ahead. Where will we go? She asked softly. Cale looked at the endless sky. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can plant something new. She smiled. Not just run. He shook his head. Earth is gone, but not its soul. That still lives in me. In us. She reached for his hand, and he held it. Not as a warrior, not as a symbol, but as Cale, the boy who remembered the rain, the boy who survived silence, the last son of Earth, and the girl who once laughed, but stayed to listen. Together, they drifted into the unknown, but their story had just begun.